So my question is the U.S. a dictatorship in disguise? Is the U.S. a dictatorship? Because what happens is we have the tendency, the United States government calls every other country that I think, from what I've seen, is a democracy, a dictatorship. So we're talking about Nicaragua, Cuba, Venezuela, Syria, Iran, all these countries are all dictatorships. But somehow we're not a dictatorship because we vote on presidents, we have Congress people we vote on. Well, is that even the case? So look, Walker Bragman, of course, says midterms are shaping up to be brutal. Well, no shit, of course, brutal for what? This is now the WWE, as Costa talks about, where we're going to have the Republicans beat the Democrats because Democrats suck so bad, and they do. And then it's like, oh, well, we have to come back and not allow the fascists to win in the general. And so on and on it goes. So we don't have your elections, right? You live in an oligarchy. This is a distraction. Paying attention to the midterms every couple of years, paying attention to the elections every 4 years is a distraction. The most minimum thing you can do is vote. And that's not, people don't vote in this country for the very reason, the fact that they know that the elections are not valid in general. And so it's just the rhetoric that comes from a lot of these commentators and these supposed progressive journalists is just stuck in decade-old analysis that is not paying attention to what we know now for a fact is that this country is an oligarchy. And in an oligarchy, you don't have a say. You don't have a republic, Republicans, libertarians. You don't have a republic. You don't have a representative republic. You also don't have a democracy. You don't have any of these things. So what are you fighting for? Yeah. Here, Kyle Kulinski says, Biden keeps getting slapped in the face. And if he doesn't bust out that executive order pen to eliminate student debt, legalize weed, etc., he might go down as the biggest cuck president of all time. Welcome. Thank you for being, 3 years behind, but thank you for realizing that. But guess what? Biden isn't a victim. He's not just getting slapped in the face. He is a tool used by the oligarchy to continue to do this. He's not going to give you free student debt. He's not going to legalize marijuana because the people who are actually in charge don't change. The system in charge hasn't changed for decades. They're just rotating presidents, just like they rotate villains. This is what we're at. And it's so frustrating to see these people like Kulinski and Walker Bragman and all these others who literally spend all their time and all their journalism and political analysis regurgitating things that are just complete and total crap. I mean, here Misty says, why do people still watch this mayonnaise-covered turd? Biden keeps getting slapped in the face? Fuck out of here. Biden's not a victim. Pasta, anything to say on that?
No, I just like the fact that she said mayonnaise-covered turd. It's stuff. But it is funny the way you see a lot of these people like, Kyle Kulinski, Walker Bragman, Jordan Sheridan, all these leftist podcasters of sorts, the way they just repeat the rhetoric of the mainstream media when it comes to the election situation. Like, I still look at Nina Turner. Like, people are like, did you guys question the election in any way, shape, or form? Nobody even knew who the other person was, who the establishment Democrat was. I didn't even know if it was a man or a woman. I had to go look it up because I never heard of the person before, right? And the fact is, they just start arguing. They skip the whole process of how this person is selected, and they start arguing or debating about, like, well, why did they lose? What did they say? What did they do this? And they're playing right into the oligarchs' hands. They're playing into, like, getting conditioned on what to do to win, because they think that the population or the populace is saying one thing when they don't even look at the actual process of choosing these people, which is the biggest problem out there. We've said this before. And it would change so much if we had a fair system. If we had the Nicaraguan system, of elections, things would change so much in America. It would look so different. Our Congress would look so different. You know what I'm saying? Our representatives would look so different. Our governors, the whole 9 yards. But people just want to skip over it, still continue to play these games. And then you got to start questioning, are they paid to skip over this? Or are they really that dumb or just want a job on those channels so badly that they just go along to get along?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a mixed bag. I think some people are really useful idiots for the system, and some, actually know what's happening, and they're also, exploiting it. Another tweet, right, to go along with this, because this is what I get angry. Every so often, these people come and they're like, "Oh, Biden's so bad and terrible. Oh, like, hello, this has been, this was going to happen." And you vilified those of us who said that this was going to happen because it's a systemic issue. It doesn't matter. who is at the helm, who is the puppet that is being manipulated by this puppeteer system. It doesn't matter. It's the same system. Black in the Empire said, I hate to condone any form of violence, but everybody that said vote Biden and will push him left deserves a kick in the genitals. And that is the most polite way of putting it, but he's absolutely right. All these people that are now clutching their pearls about the rotating villains, whether it be Manchin, Biden, Sinema, it doesn't matter. These people are all doing what they're supposed to be doing because they don't work for you. They work for the people at the top. And it's just obvious. I don't have to repeat that anymore. We're not 6 years ago right now. We're in 2022. Okay. And here comes Emma Vigilant. Okay. With this sort of analysis, I don't understand. Well, I do understand because these people are promoted by the algorithm. They're perpetuated while we're shadow banned, we're censored. This sort of fucking very basic, very like 10 years ago type of analysis. Here we go. Has there ever been an earlier shift into a lame duck presidency? We're 3 years out from the election. There's just no hope on the horizon for any meaningful legislation. A 3-year lame duck with a majority in both chambers, no less. This party is a ghost ship. Well, no shit. It has been a ghost ship for decades because this party isn't in control. Neither is Biden. The national security state apparatus is, but they don't talk about that. They're like, oh, that's conspiracy. No, it's not at all. So where these people spend, their time on YouTube and then get all these views, and then they what they do is they stoke competition with people like Jimmy Dore and others to say, oh, you guys are fascists, you're blah, blah, blah. And so then what happens is other YouTubers go on and they create videos of how bad he is, and then they go on debates. All it does is elevate these people when you do that. All it does is elevate them. It makes WWE of media. This is like what we're creating, the same hierarchical structure of media. This is not what it's supposed to be about. Why do you think Jimmy Dore doesn't give him any a debate, doesn't put him on? Because this is what they want. These people don't have any actual analysis to give. So what they do is they resort to attacks and ad hominems against people that are actually saying things worth listening to. But then you have this woman talking about a lame duck. This isn't about a lame duck. This is the system itself. See, there again with Misty, because she's been killing it lately. Gee, who could have possibly seen this coming? How's that whole push and left thing going? Because Emma was one of the advocates of push and left.
Yeah.
And then I said, the fact she thinks this is lame duck and not status quo U.S. policy is bonkers. Like, why do people listen to these people? They're pushed by the algorithm. It's such a shame.
Well, it's a form of narcissism too, fam, right? The fact that, she's got to act like she was really sincere when she was telling people we were mitigating damage by picking Joe Biden and whatnot. And then they go, oh my God, what a surprise. I thought we can push him left. I thought he was going to do this. I thought he was going to do that. I reject this type of thinking from people like Tulsi Gabbard, right? Like who even are saying, oh my God, what Biden did the other day was really wrong. He's dividing people. He said he was going to be a uniter. Did you really think for 1 second, Congresswoman, that man was going to be a uniter? Don't pull my leg. We've already gone through this shit before. We're not going through it again. And it really is just like such a psyop in so many ways, right? Because now the mainstream media, the intelligence apparatus has got people convinced that they're going to go and vote against things they don't like, right? Nina Turner lost the election because she went against the Jewish lobbyists, so people went and voted against her. Bernie Sanders lost because he's a socialist, whatnot, right? So now you have all these people like Donald Trump lost and Joe Biden won because they hate him so much, so that therefore they'll put the zombie in instead of him. They have people thinking the opposite of what really happens. And we know this, we study elections, we know elections and stuff. People go out and vote for things they're energized about, things they're enthused about. You know what I'm saying? And it's such a psychological op because now they also have people thinking about the whole socialistic views, right? Because when people push economic socialist views, those are the ones that they said people don't want, they reject. Oh, people voted for Biden in the primaries against Bernie because they don't want socialism, right? They don't want economic socialism before he was the cuck Bernie Sanders and stuff. So what's really going on? And like you said, these people are useful idiots. Some of them getting paid, but it's like fighting a battle on two fronts right now, right? Trying to convince conservatives that like the socialism that a lot of true common sense leftists are talking about, you know what I'm saying, is an economic socialism, right? It's not about this culture wars that the people on the left are pushing and look at like these are your socialists over here. They're pushing all these culture wars and stuff like that. So it's like a battle on two fronts right now. And unfortunately, the mainstream media is winning, and people like Emma, people like Kyle, people like Walker, They need to be called out for who they are and you know, and put in their place. People have to understand, and I'm glad I see a lot of people saying, I don't know why I ever listened to you. Where are you from? What is this coming from? Goodbye, gone, and move on. And that's what needs to continue to happen, right? You know, we have to be honest and straightforward, you know. And anybody who plays this game, whether it's because of their own personal mentality or they're paid for, they got to be called out, and that's it.
Yeah, and always tie it to imperialism, because what the progressives and the quote U.S. left, you know, don't focus on imperialism at all. They don't tie how it's interconnected to our domestic policy. We are experiencing imperialism domestically, just like where others are experiencing the U.S. imperialism in foreign nations, and that's what this is about. And this whole hypocrisy, you're right. We mention these names seldom, but we mention them right now because we're trying to not just go after them for our ego because we're better. But we're trying to get people to understand that is so much deeper than the surface level analysis that is offered by these people. When look, a meme is so easy to put, and this is the meme that we're going to put right now. Liberals under Trump, liberals under Biden. I mean, this is absolutely true. And of course, if you watch Lost, it's even funnier. But I just wanted to put this meme because it is absolutely valid. I mean, the world is falling apart in so many ways, but specifically, other countries are rebuilding. Nations like Nicaragua and Iran, we're going to talk about that. But the United States itself, it's an empire in decay, and it's happening every single day. And especially if you're outside of it, you can see how it's falling apart. You can see the power shift that's happening right now geopolitically. And you know, these liberals, and a lot of these liberals are progressives. So these progressives have become, like Steve says, they've taken off the training wheels, and now they're full on this generation of liberals. They're replacing them. They're the new liberals. They're not changing the system, right? And so what we're seeing is they're going back to brunch, so to speak. They're not paying attention anymore. And if they are, it's just little slaps like this. It's not actually tackling the system. And so that's really what we're pointing out here, because the most important thing to note is that this is all theater. This is all a complete and entire show. And this is Jimmy, you know, kind of quote tweeting Cher, because she's talking about Manchin and Sinema being traitors to democracy, blah, blah, blah. And there's Jimmy Dore quoting Glenn Greenwald. He says, if Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema weren't blocking all the lovely and wonderful things the Democratic Party pretends it wants to do, which, I mean, half of those things aren't even lovely and anything to begin with, they would just have other senators doing it instead. Anyone who doesn't know this understands nothing about how that party functions. And that's the truth. They rotate their villains. It was Trump and Republicans last time, now it's Sinema and Manchin and these moderates, and then tomorrow it's Biden, and then it's Harris, who can't get her act together, because you guys went over that clip. That was absolute disaster. Joe Biden makes more sense than she does when after that clip. And so it's just a joke. It's a running joke. We're all in this running joke together, and nothing gets done, because the analysis that comes from the supposed progressive independent media is just so vapid and superficial, and just more of, oh, we're just gonna have a tantrum about how awful it is, and then vote Democrat in the next. We have to get rid of these fascists. If we just have, I saw a tweet that was like, if we have more senators that are not like Sinema and Manchin, if we just have more people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, trust me, things will change. Like, they're still on that. It's 6-7 years after 2015, and you're still on that bullshit.
Yeah.
The train is gone. It's just gone.
Well, one of the biggest tools of the propaganda, though, too, is the censorship, right? Let's be honest, too, as well, because they're allowing the megaphones of these OMG liberals, of these skinny jean left progressives, whatever you want to call them right now, the emotional left that Johnny calls them. They're allowing their megaphones to get louder and louder. And when you hear stuff like, oh, if we had less cinemas and Manchins and more Bernies and Elizabeths, things would be okay. That's exactly what they want. That's what they want the rhetoric to be in the mainstream. The fact is that it's about Republican and Democrat over here. Instead, we know this, and we know this from Cynthia McKinney. She explained to us, she saw this, that it's like WWE wrestling. They walk out hand in hand and go have lunch together after they put on this theater. I like to use the A word, the theater that's going on. And that's all we have that's going on. We just have to be louder. We have to continue to scream. We have to continue to point these people out and call them out for who they are, expose their asses, and just keep preaching the right message right now. now. I mean, I loved your tweet the other day. I know we're not going over to when you were in Nicaragua with Bernie Sanders and the mask and what you put there. It's like, and then you saw people, sharing that freaking tweet and putting that in their stories. People that we know in California are like, oh my God, look what Bernie's doing for us. 2.5 years after something we already know, he's pointing it out. And that's not really the problem anyway.
I know. Well, because I said, like, the U.S., in Nicaragua, they're rebuilding, they're becoming self-sustainable, they're doing all these things. In the U.S., the left is like cheering because Biden said that we need better masks, and they're arguing about podcasters, about
Army said it.
Just it's so frustrating to be so like backward in this country and have people think that they're supporting revolutionaries when they're not. And I mean, you've had over 6 years now to figure this out, and they still haven't figured it out. And I want to reiterate this message as we're going to go into the next section in a minute, because this message is extremely clear. Because the U.S. always talks about how countries like Cuba, Syria, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Iran are dictatorships. But in reality, Americans need to realize the U.S. is the biggest dictatorship there exists. Okay, and this goes along with the elections. The government, the domestic and foreign policies do not change no matter who is president. Tell me how your life has tangibly changed since when Trump was president to prior to that Obama. I mean, in fact, your life might have gotten worse just because that's the way it's going to go for all of us. Yeah. All you have are the illusions of the choice is the WWE, because the elections are not fair nor transparent. Continuing to support either party, in my opinion, okay, it's just they're supporting theater production. They're elected representatives, but they're selected. We know this, right? And so you're perpetuating the duopoly. No power gets back into our hands. Electoralism in the United States won't save us. You cannot compare that to electoralism in other countries where they do have fair elections. In this country, at this moment, electoralism is not saving us. And anybody who points it out, whether it's a figure, politician, journalist, anybody, right, and who has tried to point out the national security state apparatus or the deep state, which is the national security state apparatus, and the 1% of these psychopaths who are in control gets eliminated, right? They're eliminated via physical form, or they're eliminated via character assassination. And those people are the ones you should be listening to. And that is what we're going to talk about here in the next, is what is actually happening foreign policy in Nicaragua, Iran, Syria, and this shift to bilateral relationships and how that directly affects us, fam.
Yeah. You see this over here, this mask, fam, provides a lot more protection than this mask over here. I mean, I wanted to jump through the TV screen when he said it. And, it's just kind of piggybacking on what you were talking about over here, fam, is that a lot of people got to look back to Obama, right? Like with the Obamacare Act. What was it called again? I know we called it Obamacare.
The Affordable Care Act.
Affordable Care Act. But that was mandated insurance. You had to have insurance mandated. And if you didn't have it, you were financially punished through your taxes and whatnot. Each president, all they're doing is creating a situation where they can hand the baton off to the next one and he can run with it. Donald Trump was the whole thing with Operation Warp Speed. He laid the ground right there for Joe Biden to now go and say, let's take mandates. And he grabbed the baton and he started running with it. So it never changes, like you said, especially the foreign policy. Let's not forget that Donald Trump and the famous ripping of the script by Pelosi from that State of the Union, they all stood up, though, when Juan Guaido was introduced. Both Democrat, Republicans, they stood up and gave a guy a round of applause when they were denying the actual democratic results in Venezuela. It's the same thing. It doesn't make a difference who's in that White House. It doesn't make a difference who holds the gavel. That imperialism, that same corporate mentality of how they're going to make money, you know what I'm saying, from going from each country to each country, raping them the resources and thrusting in austerity measures with our monetary system, it doesn't change. So to think that this whole theater that's going on and people buying into it is really helping, it's not. We got to call out the system for what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Plain and simple.